Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'm hoping that you're also enjoying your reading week. Definitely, you want to catch up maybe with the course, but at the same time, please take a break as well. It's been quite a hard-working 4 weeks that we have gone through so far. Anyway, so if you got any questions about how to catch up with the course, it will be really your call. Reach out to me. I will give you some advice. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you're actually okay. So the course has to move on. So now we're moving on to week number 5. We are nearly halfway to the course. And after about 1 week or so of the course material, we're going to enter the most exciting materials for the course, which is about inheritance. Let me just give you a little bit look ahead. About the like a heads up message. But once we get to the inheritance, I'll broadcast a message to everybody to say you really want to pay attention to this exciting yet challenging topic. Okay, so for this week, we'll just talk about a single topic, which will take me about 3 hours to really explain in full details, which I think you should definitely pay attention to my explanation. So this week is about object equality, about the equals method. So remember we spoke about the toString method that every class may just have to override and to somehow redefine the toString method. And we got something that's even more important, that even more fundamental, which is called the equals method. What does it really mean when you got two points objects, or maybe two persons objects, or even two refurbished shop objects? How do you claim that they are actually equal to each other? So that will be the topic for this week, which is a very important yet a little bit more advanced topics that you want to go through. Okay, let me go through the study materials that I have made available to you, and then off you go. You can do your work. Okay, so let's take a look. So you can definitely start with this playlist, and then you will get this intro video, which I'll just go through all the things you want to pay attention to in perspective. And these are the videos that you're gonna watch. I broke them down into about 20 minutes maximum, but for quite a few of them, they are simply just about maybe within 10 minutes. So you just have to adjust your time to make sure you watch maybe about 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 clips every day to really catch up with the lecture. I know that maybe a good number of you might still be behind with the lecture, either because maybe you're lazy or maybe you're simply too busy with other courses. Anyway, you really have to catch up, right? I cannot say anything else. Okay, so for this time, we're going to talk about different aspects for the equals method. I will give you a quick summary about the equals method, about either to override it or to simply inherit the default version from the object class. I'll talk about the two cases just to give you some high-level view. And then I'll speak about how you can define the equals method by overriding it. So this will be the topic for version 2 over here, together with some example. And then I'll then talk about how you can actually combine the equals method together with unit testing. So that'll be the second part, the second half of the this week lecture. And you still got your iPad notes with all the annotations, and you got your 2 slides. Let me show to you. The number of slides is actually not very huge. It's only about 20 or so. If you actually go to this week, if you go to lecture number 3, object equality. By the way, for callback value that you might see in the slides, I decided to actually move that to week number 6 because I was running out of time when I was recording for this week. So just to not overburden you too much. So callback value will be covered in the coming week, not this week. Okay. And then you will see it's only about 20 slides or so. However, it's quite it's quite dense about the material this week. So you want to make sure you understand all the example code I made available to you, and also the practice I did together with you about how to use debugger to step into to see which versions of the equals method that has to be executed. So these are very important exercises. So don't really get the illusion that you don't have much to study, right? You got quite a bit to actually digest in time. Okay, so that's about the slides, and then I also made available to you some source code. It covers pretty much almost everything about what I illustrated in the lecture slides or in the video. Okay, and there's one thing I want to draw your attention to. You will see that for part F specifically, I said that it's actually optional review. I really meant that it's optional in the following sense. If you actually feel comfortable about using the ampersand, the logical conjunction operator, or the vertical bar, the logical disjunction operator from Java, which you learned in the first year, if you're feeling comfortable about the so-called short circuit effects of the logical operators, if you can very clearly recall its definition and also its application as guarding constraint, and in that case you can skip this part over here. But I decided that for maybe most of you, you may have already forgotten about what short circuit effect really means that you learned from the first year. That's why I recorded this extra video just for you to do some thorough review. And starting from G1, G2, and etc. So we also make use of the logical operator that will exploit the short circuit effect. So make sure you review part F if necessary. I'll let you do the judgment. Will that be covered in the written test or exam? The answer is yes. So if you feel comfortable, skip it. If you don't feel comfortable, study that. It's that simple. Okay. All right, about the learning objectives and milestone for this week. Let's take a look. So let me see. So we mainly just talk about object equality. Are we going to use a default version from the object class? Okay, so there will be some default equals method. Default equals from, there is a class called objects. The name is simply just called object class. I included some URL in the slides. You can also take a look at the API for the object class about the requirements of designing your equals method. Either to override or not, in which case you will simply get a default version of the equals method. And also we'll talk about how you can assert equality, asserting equality in JUnit. Specifically, we want to distinguish between assert same versus assert equals, these two. We actually use both of them back in your review tutorial series in the first 2 weeks. We already got some hands-on experience, but I think this time I want to dive even deeper into specifically about equals method. So you can think about this is going to be related to whether or not your equals method in the class is overridden or not. So there will be some cases for you to consider. Okay. And as I said, optional review. If you feel comfortable about short circuit effects, you don't need to bother with the 20 minutes of the video. But if you don't feel quite comfortable, I would say for the sake of your learning, you better review it. It will be worth your time. I think that's a very reasonable review to highlight all the points you need to know about logical conjunction and short circuit effects. And how you can define object equality for reference type attributes. And here I talk about both cases. One will be single valued. For example, a person has a first name, and the first name is a reference type, string type. And also multi-value, and we know that very well. How you can actually have attribute that's an array of maybe an array of person or an array of maybe products and etc. How would you define the equals method for each one of them accordingly? Okay. And finally, about the milestone for week number 5. So mainly your lab number 2 is going to be due on the coming Friday, October 15, and 2 p.m. Right? It's always the same time, right? It's never I don't think it's ever going to change, right? Just make sure it's consistent. And then, for those of you who may have not studied yet, Lecture 2B, your Lab 2 does require that. Well, if you can get around with completing Lab number 2 without studying Lecture 2B, I would say you might be missing something quite a bit. So you may want to catch up with the lecture because that will be covered quite thoroughly in your coming written test and also in your final exam. Okay. And of course, even though we already passed the Q&A session for Lecture 2B, if you got any question, you're still welcome to actually post it on the Google Doc, or maybe ask me during the Q&A, or just come to me during the office hour, or just reach out to me, either way. Okay, looking ahead, what's going to happen? Let's just see where we are in perspective, and then let's take a look at the semester calendar. Okay, let's now go all the way to the top of the course page, and then I want to look at the semester calendar, which is over here. Okay, we are now basically inside the reading week, right? Remember, I kind of postponed releasing this current week number 5 lecture so that you could focus more on the programming test 1 and also your lab 2. Okay, and we are now here about the reading week, October 11th. But your Q&A for lecture week number 5 is not going to happen until about 10 days later. So you do have time to actually digest the lecture and also post questions, right? It didn't really compromise your learning opportunity. And after the reading week, maybe many of you are thinking about catching up with the course. I really appreciate that, but just make sure you do it properly, right? If you got any questions, let me know. And also, we got week number 6 after the reading week. Nothing is going to be due, and nothing is going to be tested. However, starting from week number 7 and 8, we got again written test 2 and also a programming test 2. So in the coming 2 weeks, reading week and week number 6, this will be your golden opportunity to really catch up with the lectures with any gap you really have found from the previous 2 assessments. If you got any advice needed, please speak to me as soon as possible. All right. So that's about week number 5, about the object equality that you're going to learn, and also the milestone. As ever, if you got any questions about the course, it's never too late to reach out to me. All right, happy studying.